Hello, once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Rockstar Chronicles, Series 1, my new book, featuring over 45 intimate conversations with the greatest music legends the world will ever know, available now at bookbaby.com and amazon.com. Steve March-Tormé is the son of legendary singer-songwriter Mel Torme, right on with Christmas season, and the stepson of well-known actor, comedian Hal March, a talented entertainer in his own right. Since the late 1970s, he has been a successful singer, entertainer, recording artist, TV and radio host, and has toured extensively worldwide to an ever-growing fan base. He's adept at performing in a variety of musical genres, both live and in the studio, including jazz, pop, big band, and with symphony orchestras. He performed on occasional with his father, Mel, and sometimes performs tribute shows dedicated to Mel's music. Steve has written a brand new original Christmas song entitled I Remember Christmas Time. It's a beautiful, nostalgia, sentimental salute to fond remembrances of the Christmas season. Steve's new Christmas song is released 76 years after Mel Torme co-wrote the iconic The Christmas Song, commonly subtitled as Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, which became a huge holiday hit for Nat King Cole in 1946 and again in 1961. The original 1946 recording was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1974. The song is the most performed Christmas song ever. Please welcome singer, songwriter, musician, actor, radio host, and the son of legendary Mel Torme, Steve March-Tormé, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Steve.
Hello, sir. I thought you were going to name the show Interviewing the Legends and Steve March-Tormé.
Well, you're part of that.
We're breaking precedent today, folks. We're going to do something different. We're going to do Steve March-Tormé instead. Well, much appreciated.
Well, you got some, you've been on a kind of a mini tour for Christmas.
Yeah.
And you got a couple more dates coming up.
We're in the middle of a 10 concert run, and you and I both know, both doing radio, you check out people's websites. There are a lot of people that aren't doing shows right now for obvious reasons, and it's a shame. So we are, knock on wood, all of our concerts so far are still intact. And this is a show called For Kids from 1 to 92, lifting a line from Dad's song.
Right.
And it features myself and a friend of mine named Michael Bailey, who's a guy who's led up a kind of a classic cover band here in Wisconsin for about 30 years, and Mark Wood, who is one of the founding members of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And it's a very, very good musical show. I mean, this is not one of those, oh, that was nice, and some people from Wisconsin put together a show.
Right.
This is top-rate musicians, and the show, I think, is so good because it's so varied. I didn't want to put something together where people sat there for 2 hours and said, well, that was okay, but it all kind of sounded the same. It's the exact opposite. Just about every song has its own personality or has somebody else singing it or different instrumentation or different arrangements. So it's a really enjoyable Christmas show to do.
What kind of reaction do you get when you sing the Christmas song?
Well, I get a really very positive, wonderful reaction, but even better when on 2 occasions, and one's coming up next week, my 15-year-old daughter, Sunny, is going to sing it with me in Appleton, Wisconsin. She sang it with me last week in Oshkosh. So you've got, my daughter's singing her grandfather's song with her father. You got 3 generations, and she's a good singer. I mean, she really can sing. So yeah, the reaction's been great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you got actually tomorrow you'll be at the Ames Center, Burnsville. After that, you'll be in Wisconsin, I think, Thelma Sadoff Center for the Arts.
Thelma Sadoff Center in De Pere, not De Pere, in Fond du Lac.
Fond du Lac.
And then we get back in the car and travel all the way to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is about another 3.5 hours away.
And then I guess you finish off in Fox City's Performing Arts Center in Appleton.
Yeah, that's my hometown, so we'll have a nice crowd. But
yeah,
that's where I live now. That's where I live now. Yeah.
Huh. You getting any snow?
No, we don't get any snow in Wisconsin. Well, I don't know what books you've been reading. It's funny. We got dumped on about 4 days ago. I mean, a pretty good amount of snow, and you look out the window today, it's all gone. The weather's been nuts. It
Wow.
was 1 degree about 5 days ago. Yesterday it was 61. That's Wisconsin. So the snow's gone and it'll be coming back, but we are going through an unbelievable windstorm right now, like just shy of tornado level. So
Yep.
it's crazy. It's Midwest. The weather's nuts. So
Yeah, I was
Here's what
watching
it
the
is.
news, man. The whole Midwest is, out of control. I don't know what's going on, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, it's obviously the vaccination.
Yeah, we got to blame it on something, right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, we're probably going to see you in the NFC Championship game again. I'm in near Tampa, so the Buccaneers and Green Bay Packers probably going to happen.
Are you in Tampa?
Yeah, I'm close to Tampa. I'm south of Tampa.
If I was going to put money down in the game, those are the two teams I would pick right now. I agree with that. And of course, we have no idea. I mean, neither one might make it, but I think you've got arguably, and there's not much of an argument, the two best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
As talented as Pat Mahomes is, and he's a terrific talent, but these two are the best all-around quarterbacks in football. And they're great leaders, and we'll see. I mean, the Packers had that game last year, but unfortunately decided, we don't really have to play defense. That's for kids. And that was into that game. I mean, the fact that Brady torched them, with less than a minute left in the first half, and Kevin King was on the field and decided, I'm not going to guard that guy. He'll never catch that ball. That was the end of it. So your team is strong, man. That they didn't drop a beat, and Brady is a great competitor. Rodgers, I think, there's no question Brady is the greatest winning quarterback of all time. He's got great tools. He's a great leader. His record speaks for itself. I think the best quarterback I've ever seen is Aaron Rodgers, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not from Green Bay. I don't have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
But just for skill level, I think he does everything Brady does and does it a little bit better. But that's my opinion. He's a little more elusive, as strong an arm, as accurate, definitely, doesn't throw interceptions. And he's a pretty cool customer like Brady is. So I hope you're right. That'd be a great game again. Nice rematch.
I grew up actually in Baltimore, and with the Baltimore Colts, Johnny Unitas, and I really believe the pure passer, that's what you need on a team. The guys that scramble, like Lamar Jackson and what he's doing now, it's never going to work. They'll never make the Super Bowl. Those kinds of guys.
Well, Pat Mahomes did, and he won one. So I don't necessarily agree with you, but I think you do have to be a pocket passer who can be elusive when you need to be.
Exactly.
And that's one of Rodgers' great abilities, is when he does get flushed out, he still throws really well on the run.
Right.
Brady doesn't have to so much. Brady gets protected really well by that offensive line, doesn't have to scramble as much. So you go back to the high tops, you go back to Johnny U.
Mm-hmm. And Bart
Tom Matty.
Yeah.
Those are strong teams, strong defenses. And then they decided one day, we're not going to be here in Baltimore anymore. And that was that.
Yeah, I'm still upset about that after all these years, especially when Indianapolis has our uniforms. They're trying to take our history. That's a bunch of crap.
What you should be upset about is the fact that your Orioles have no pitching.
Oh,
that's
my God. Yeah. Very upset about the Orioles too.
Yeah.
I've actually got a tattoo of the Oriole bird on my shoulder.
So I'm not the only one. Oh, all right. I knew I'd find somebody. So were you an Oriole kid growing up? Were you a fan?
No, big time. My hero was Brooks Robinson. I'm like you. I went to a fantasy camp. You went to the fantasy camp with the Yankees, right? Is that right?
I was talked into it. I was coerced into going. It was fun. I wouldn't go again. One time was plenty. It was fine. I had a great time. That was it.
I did it with the Orioles back in 1990.
So who were some of the coaches that were there? Because they had to be the old Orioles.
Let's see. Earl Weaver was actually a coach. Paul Blair. My coach was Baylor, not Don Baylor, the other Baylor that used to play with Toronto. I got
Bob Baylor?
Bob Baylor. Yeah, that was my coach.
Right.
Elrod Hendricks was there.
Ellie Hendricks.
Brooksy was there,
Yep. There was some
pretty cool.
They had some great teams, in the day they had some great teams. Jim Palmer played in the same Little League I did, not at the same time.
Right.
But Jim Palmer played in Beverly Hills Little League.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Well, the things you learn. You go back to people like Kurt Blefary
Yeah.
and Jerry Adair. Now, see, I shouldn't know who any of those people are. It's pathetic.
So
And
who did you play with the Yankees? Who were some of the players you played with?
Well, it was, you got 2 minutes for a story?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Plenty of time.
And off the air, I can tell you the best part of that story. I can't do it on air, regardless. But I had a buddy of mine called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm down in Florida. Guess what I'm doing?" I said, "I don't really want to guess what you're doing. Why don't you tell me what you're doing?" "Well, I'm at Yankee Fantasy Camp." I said, "Oh, well, that's good. Sounds like fun." He goes, "You should do this." I said, "No, I have no desire to do a fantasy camp." He says, "No, you'd have a lot of fun." I said, "You know what? I can still play." And I know what fantasy camp is. It's a bunch of guys that haven't played in years. They want to get autographs. And I get that. That's all fine and well, but I don't really want to do that. So he says, "Well, somebody wants to talk to you." I said, "Okay, fine." So he hands the phone to some guy, and the guy gets on the phone. He says, "Is this Steve Torme?" I said, "Well, it's Steve March-Tormé, but you got the right person. To whom do I owe the pleasure?" He goes, "Well, this is Tony Kubek." And, for one of the few times in my life, I had a Ralph Cramden moment. I was literally humming, because he was one of the guys that, when I was a kid, that was the team that I followed.
Sure.
It was Kubek and Richardson and Elston Howard and Mickey and Roger. That was the team.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to him. I said, "Is my friend being a pain in the ass?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, that figures." He said, "Well, we're in a rain delay." I said, "Florida, a rain delay. Go figure." He said, "Hey, have you thought about coming down and playing ball?" I said, "Tony, it sounds like it'd be a good time, but I'm really not that interested." He said, "Well, you ought to think about it." And anyway, it was nice talking to you. So he gets off the phone, and my friend gets back on. He goes, "Pretty cool, huh?" I said, "Yeah, geez, he really was one of my childhood heroes. I was a shortstop. I love Tony Kubek." He says, "You know where he lives?" I said, "No." He says, "He lives in Appleton, Wisconsin, where you live." I said, "You've got to be kidding me."
How about
I
that?
said, "He lives here?" He goes, "Yeah, you can look him up in the book." I said, "Oh my God." So you'll appreciate this because you know some of the ball players.
Sure.
So I wait about 2 weeks after camp and I find his phone number and I call him up. I said, "Hey, Tony, it's Steve Marsh-Tormé." He goes, "Hey, how you doing, pal?" I said, "Oh, great. I said, "Nice talking to you." I said, "Look, I know you live here. Any chance we could meet up and have lunch?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm sure that'd be great. It sounds good there. Do you know where Oshkosh is?" I said, "Yeah, I know where it is." He goes, "Oh, there's a pizza place there. A buddy of mine owns it. We could meet there." I said, "That sounds great." I said, "Look, I don't want to bug you, but I got to ask. Any chance we can play catch?" He goes, "Oh, no. The arm's a long shot. That's not going to happen." I said, but thanks for asking." I said, "Okay." So I show up to meet him. And within 2 minutes, "Hey, nice to meet you." And he's a big boy. I mean, he was like the first of the tall shortstops. I mean, he played some basketball at Marquette. He's 6'2" if he's an inch.
Wow.
And you and I were,
Man.
when you and I were growing up, all the shortstops were Bert Campaneris' size.
Louis Aparicio
And Maury Wills. They were all little guys my size.
Yeah.
So I meet him and I said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Tony." He says, "Yeah." I said, "Jim Coates says hello." And he goes, "Jim Coates? Jim Coates, he was, did I ever tell you about him?" I said, "No, I just met you a minute ago." He says, "He was a mountain man. He was a racist, one of the meanest guys I ever played with." I said, "Well," he said to say hello. Also, Marshall Bridges said this. "Marshall Bridges. Did I ever tell you about Marshall Bridges?" I said, "No, what?" He goes, "He would come into the clubhouse with a Wall Street Journal under his arm. You know why?" I go, "No." He said he couldn't read and he was embarrassed. He didn't want the guys to know. So I know I've already got him hooked. I've given him two obscure Yankees. Yep. Instead of my meeting him and saying, "Does Yogi really say those things?
Yeah, exactly.
Did Mickey really drink that much?" He's going to, the eyes are going to glaze over if I do that. Yeah. So we're friends automatically. He knows that I know about, the guys that were the more obscure players in the team. He said, "So you're thinking of doing this? You're thinking of going to Yankee camp?" I said, "I really am not." I said, "But if I thought about it, I tell you what, if I think about doing it, will you come to the batting cage with me? Because I played a lot of fast pitch softball, but I haven't played baseball in some time. I mean, literally, 60-foot bases in a baseball." He says, "Well, I'll go to the cage with you, but I can't really help you." I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Because if you can hit, I can't really help you. And if you can't hit by now, I can't help you." I said, "Fair enough. That makes sense." So went to the batting cage. He said, "Oh, you can hit." I said, "Look, only a couple of things I can do. I can sing and I can play baseball. That pretty much kind of covers it. And tennis, that's about it." So I signed up. I went to the Yankee camp because I realized, you know what, if you're ever going to do this, it's going to be for the Yankees or the Dodgers. Like everybody else I've met, I'm not getting younger. When am I going to do this when I'm 80? So I went to the Yankee camp, and it was really interesting. It basically is an AA meeting. I mean, it's just
Never thought about
guys,
that.
pretty much. You get down there, and I get to the hotel on Sunday night. You're supposed to start the next day.
Yeah.
There's no infield, there's no nothing. They just throw you out on the field. So I get there Sunday night. There's this huge guy standing in the lobby, and I'm walking by him. He goes, "Hey, camper, what's your name?" Hi, my name's Steve March-Tormé. "Oh, you're on my team." "Oh, it's nice to meet you." And I said, "Well, I know who you are." And it was Frank Howard.
Frank Howard, whoa,
filling the doorway. He's 6'8".
Yeah, he's huge.
He's huge, and he had been a coach for the Yankees for a little while.
Right.
So he says, "Well, you're on my team." He says, "So where do you play, Steve?" I said, "You play me where you want to play." He goes, "Well, where do you want to play?" I said, "I'll do you the best good at shortstop." "All right, you're playing short. Where do you want to hit?" I said, "Frank, I don't care." He goes, "You hit third." I said, "Well, thank you, Frank. That sounds good." So, and I wish I could tell you the story on the air, but I'll tell you off the air. So anyway, so I went through the camp, and I'm the guys, to answer your question, the coaches were Moose Skowron,
right?
And Stottlemyre.
Oh yeah,
Tresh.
Yeah.
Bucky Dent, Griffey Sr.,
right?
Johnny Blanchard,
yep,
Yogi,
great,
and Yogi was 112 then. This was a few years ago. Tony brings me over to meet him. He goes, "Hey, Yogi, I want you to meet a friend of mine. His name is Steve March-Tormé, Mel Tormé's son." And Yogi gives me a. He doesn't want to be bothered. He just want to be bothered by anybody. So I pulled the same thing with him. I said, "Nice to meet you, Yogi." Yogi, by the way, Sherm Lawler says hi. Sherm Lawler. I haven't heard that name, Sherm Lawler, in a while. So he signed a bat for me, and he's not supposed to sign bats.
Right.
It's like, he'll sign a ball, but don't ask me to sign your glove or anything else. So it's very nice of him to do that. So I went through camp, and I don't know, there were maybe 120 guys in camp. They got like 8 teams. I was on the worst team by far. I mean, a horribly bad team. And I won the most valuable player award in camp.
That's incredible.
It was a low bar. And people have asked me that, and they said, "I understand you were the MVP." I said, "Yeah, if you could run to first and not fall down, you could win the MVP award." So, and I could do that. So anyway, it was pretty cool. I made friends with Moose Skowron. Actually, we became friends. And he said, we were playing one game. I had hit a triple to start off an inning, and I'm over at third, and he's coaching the team. He goes, "Hey, Tormé, fly me to the moon, right?" That's close enough, Moose.
Fly me to the moon?
Yeah, Mel Tormé, fly me to the moon. Right, okay. So he said, "Hey, you ever sing the anthem? You ever sing the national anthem?" I said, "Yeah, I've done that." "Well, I work for the White Sox. You come here, you come sing for the White Sox." So sang it for the White Sox and spent half the time in the bar with him. And he was quite a character. I mean, he was exactly what you'd think. He was a very nice guy, but I would say, he said, "So who are the Yankees? Who are your favorite Yankees?" And I said, "Well, you're the team." And everybody loved Mickey. I loved Elston Howard. And immediately, without missing a beat, he goes, "Yeah, Elston, he was one of the good ones." And we know exactly what he meant. Like, "Well, you mean not step and fetch it, Moose?" "Yeah, he was one of the good ones. Yeah, he was pretty good." So it was an interesting experience. And again, off the air, I'll tell you the other story.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of drinking there. I tell you that. We got
oh my god,
getting off the bus, there was like a bin filled with beer as soon as you get off the bus. After a game.
Absolutely. And at night, when all the guys are telling the stories, they say, "Hey, Tony, will you, Tony, tell the story about the time that Turley did this." And these fraying guys, and Skowron gets up there, and everyone's just saucing. I mean, I think it was a chance for these guys to get away from their wives, the guys that go to the camp. And you and I both know it's not cheap. It's not like, it's $75 for the week. It cost a couple of dollars. Yeah. And I was lucky I had it at the time. I said, all right, go do this.
Me too.
But it's an AA meeting. Guys are just drinking, and they're going out and playing a doubleheader in the Tampa Heat and falling over like flies. It was interesting.
Earl Weaver was so short, man.
He's a little guy.
Oh my God. I greeted him at the door when he first came to the hotel. I said, "Hey, Earl," we shook hands. He says, he says, "Is this the party?" I says, "Yeah, follow me." So I was at the bar with him and his wife. We were drinking beers. You know, Pat Dobson was smashed. Oh my God. Smoking one cigarette after another, and a womanizer. God rest his soul. You know, he's not with us anymore. You know?
One of the 4 20-game winners on that
exactly.
team. The one that nobody ever gets.
I know. Right. You know, Stoudemire, Cuellar, and McNally, they should all be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. You know that?
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. You know, McNally was a really crafty lefty. He was a good pitcher. Cuellar, maybe. Yeah. And Stoudemire toiled on those horrible Yankee teams. And, you know, they had a stretch there where they were going, you know, 79 and 90, and he would still win 20 games.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think he belongs.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I'll tell you somebody that was interesting. I go in the locker room at 7 o'clock in the morning, putting a uniform on, and there's this guy sitting at his locker with a cigarette and a scotch. And I walk by and he goes, "Hey, how you doing, camper?" I said, nice to meet you, sir. It was Don Larson.
Don Larson. Oh my God. I couldn't believe how much those guys smoke cigarettes. And why they were playing.
Yeah. Well, it killed Skowron. Skowron ended up dying of lung cancer.
Yeah.
Some of those guys that I'm looking at my wall right now, Yogi's gone. Turley, who was a great guy who had made a lot of money outside of baseball, he's gone. Moose is gone.
Yeah.
Hank Bauer, gone.
Yeah.
Tresh, gone just recently. Yeah, the years, they do go by quickly.
Most of the Orioles are gone from the championship team. Same thing, you know. Mark Belanger smoked like a fish also, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that was the era.
They're all gone, man. It hurts. When you
it does. It does. And a lot of those guys were getting, where they were doing cigarette endorsements.
Yeah,
I smoke Chesterfields.
Yeah. Well,
when I'm not throwing guys out from the hole, I smoke a Chesterfield.
Steve, are you still on? Is it 91.1 in Green Bay? How long have you been there?
It's in the Fox. It's in the Fox City, so it runs from like Door County all the way down below Fond du Lac towards Milwaukee.
Right.
I did an album here in Wisconsin. I decided I wanted to write one more kind of pop album that kind of reflected my influences, which aren't really jazz. It's my influences are Todd Rundgren and Michael McDonald and Donald Fagen and people like that. So I wrote this album, and after it was done, we had only been in Appleton a short time, and my wife said, "Have you listened to the station 91.1 The Avenue?" I said, "Well, if I have, I haven't really noticed. I mean, I don't search out stations. I don't listen to that much music on the radio, to tell you the truth." She said, "Well, they're pretty different. It's pretty interesting. You might want to take a listen." So I turn it on, and they're playing a Billie Holiday tune, and that's followed by a Joni Mitchell tune, and then Thunderclap Newman, and then Duke Ellington. I'm like, oh, no one's got a playlist like this. That's really all over the board.
Yeah.
So I called them up. I said, "Hi, my name's Steve March-Tormé. I'm Mel's son, and I did this album. I'm just curious. Can I send you some songs?" They said, "Yeah, sure." And I didn't expect to hear back. And they called me back about 4 days later and said, "Yeah, there are like 2 or 3 songs here that we'd like to play." I said, "Hey, I'm flattered. I would have been thrilled with one. Thank you."
Right.
And a couple of days later, "Can you do a station ID for us?" And I'm sure the Tormé name doesn't hurt. So it's, "Hi, this is Steve March-Tormé. You're listening to 91.1 The Avenue."
Right.
And maybe 3 days later, the GM calls me and says, "Hey, you got a great voice for radio. We've got an opening here to host. Would you be interested in hosting a show?" I said, "Well, I hosted some TV stuff in LA, so I'm pretty sure I could host this in Appleton, but I want the best slot." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I don't want to be on from 2 to 6 in the morning. I want your drive time slot. I want 3 to 7. I said, I'm not a Mensa, but I'm not an idiot." And they said, "All right, you can have that." So I got the afternoon slot. And then a little bit later, they were not happy with somebody who was doing mornings. They said, "You want to do mornings too?"
Right.
I said, "Yeah, if you up the pay a little bit, sure. I'd love to. It's more exposure for me." So I'm on weekday mornings, I'm on weekday afternoons, and then they added Saturday mornings. So I'm on more than I want to hear me. It's like enough with him.
Radio's fun though. It really is. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on, I agree with you. And it depends on the station. It depends on what the parameters are. I mean, we're a nonprofit radio station.
Okay.
So we have certain compliance issues. I can't promote any of my concerts. Right. Somebody else has to do those.
Right.
But the other side of that coin is we are not beholden to a playlist of people
Yep.
saying, no, you've got to play Stand By Me, you know, 3
Yep.
times every 4 hours.
Right,
We can
right.
play anything we want.
That's
And
great.
My GM, when he hired me, he said, hey, I think this is going to work out well. And you got a great personality for this. And people like it. He said, I got one rule. Just don't get us sued. I said, all right.
Don't be a Howard Stern.
Exactly. You know what subjects to touch and which not to. So I've been called into the principal's office 3 times in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't think any of them were really egregious acts, but you be the judge.
Okay.
So we're playing a song by Carly Simon off the No Secrets album.
Sure.
And people know that album cover.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For a good reason.
Yeah.
And all I said was, that's Carly Simon. That's from an excellent album that Richard Perry produced called No Secrets. Obviously a pretty cold day in New York when they shot that cover. And that's all I said.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's all I said. I didn't say, hey, look at those.
Yeah.
Well, some lady called in and she said, I was driving my kids to school and they were on their phone in the back and they looked. I don't tune into the Avenue to hear that kind of.
Geez.
Yeah. And that was my reaction. Really, really.
You're too sensitive nowadays, man.
Yeah. So that was the first one. The second one was I will often do a song by a group and tell people where they're playing. Like, Mumford & Sons, they're going to be in, Plainsfield, Illinois, birthplace of, and I'll find somebody that's kind of interesting. So this one was birthplace of actress Marilyn Chambers. All right, next up, Elton John. Well, same thing. Some lady called up and she said, I know people think that pornography is not a harmful business, but it's very harmful to the people in it. Obviously, she had been in the business and that just triggered her. And I actually called her up and apologized. Just what the hell? I said, hey, I didn't mean to, trigger anything in you. And you're right. It's very disrespectful to women. So that's what I've gotten called in for.
Hey, she was the Ivory Snow Girl, right?
Yes, she was. You know your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was a top 40 guy back in the late 70s.
Where?
Annapolis, Maryland. Pat Sajak owns the station now. He bought the station.
Does he? Oh, yeah. He's a smart boy.
He is a smart guy. Yeah. But that was a good time for radio. I mean, you had disco, new wave, little rock, a little bit of everything, I guess.
Yeah, that's fun. Did you take calls?
I took calls. I went off the playlist a bunch of times. Around midnight, I played some Jimi Hendrix. It wasn't on the playlist.
Right. Well,
but they let me. They were pretty cool about it.
Yeah. And again, at 91.1 The Avenue, they've been pretty good with me. They've given me some good leeway. And they know that I'm going to be silly at times and say stuff that's not true just to get a laugh. So nobody really complains about it.
Yeah.
I've been telling people how Hump Day, why Wednesday is called Hump Day.
Right.
Because, and then I come up with it was actually named after Humphrey Bogart, which is true because on Wednesday is when the only day he wouldn't go to the commissary. Yeah. It's just nonsense. It's just made up nonsense. And the next week it'll be Humphrey, Hubert Humphrey. It was named after him because it's just stupid stuff. And as long as they don't get sued, I keep my job, I guess.
Remember when I was first in radio, they told me I had to change the light bulb on the tower.
Right.
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's one of my daughter's teachers. He's a good guy, pretty cool guy. And he met me a long time ago. Said, "Yeah, I listen to your radio show." I said, "Oh, well, thank you." And his favorite group is Fleet Foxes. He says, "Yeah, I really like them." And I said, "Oh, okay." So every time Fleet Foxes is played, I mention that they are still the favorite group of, and then I make something up about him. So this morning, it was still the favorite group of the guy who plays with a left-handed tennis racket, even though he's right-handed, Brian Gilbo. So we see people actually listen to that, and finally the light bulb goes on. People go, "There's no such thing as a left-handed tennis racket. What is he talking about?"
That's
interesting.
Funny. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, let's talk about your music. You're a great singer, man.
That's very nice of you.
I love your album, Tormé Sings Tormé. I really, really enjoyed that.
And you got a chance to hear the Christmas song, obviously.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's on YouTube.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You didn't think about putting together a whole album, huh? Of Christmas tunes?
I think that's going to be next year.
Is that next year? Okay.
Yeah, because people had said, you can do a Christmas album. I said, I'd love to. I'd like to do one that's not all the exact same songs everyone's done.
Right.
Obviously, I get to put an original in there, which is nice. But there's a pretty cool tune that Charles Brown wrote and recorded in 1960. The Eagles covered called "Please Come Home for Christmas."
Right.
That's kind of a cool old blues tune. So there's stuff like that. Yeah, I'll do a Christmas album next year, hopefully.
Oh, cool.
And you know, the Torme Sings Torme thing, that's, I guess it's a DVD, CD, it's kind of a combo thing. That came about, my mom called me up a number of years ago, and she lived down in Palm Desert. I was living in Santa Monica. She says, there's a guy down here who wants to meet you. I've been telling him all about you. I said, what? Well, he knows everybody in the business, and his name is Lenny Green. I said, oh, okay. And well, you should meet him. He's got some ideas. I'm thinking, I'm going to drive all the way down there for a guy's going to give me some ideas. He could do it over the phone.
Yeah.
But I really, you know what? Go down and meet him and go see your mom and spend some time. So I go into this guy's house, and he's in the other room, and I'm in his den, and he's got pictures with everybody. I mean, literally everybody.
Right.
You know, Johnny Mathis and Sammy Davis Jr., Sinatra, everyone. So I guess he probably was a manager or an agent.
Yep.
And he meets me and he says, yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, Steve Torme. Yeah, good voice. Listen, good voice. Yeah, Torme Jr. And I don't know if I like this guy within 2 minutes. Like Torme Jr. All right. Anyway.
Torme Jr.
So he says, yeah, I think he even called me. He said, Mel Jr. Said, that's great. So he says, you know, if you want to play down here in the desert, you want to play the McCallum Theater. You know about that? I said, yes, it's a beautiful performance arts center. Absolutely beautiful. He says, well, I think I can get you booked there, but if I just try to book you as Steve March-Tormé, nobody knows who you are. You're not going to put butts in the seats. But I'll tell you, if you do a tribute show to your dad, that I think I can book. And I said, well, I mean, no disrespect whatsoever, but my dad had a great career, and he doesn't need a memoriam done for me. I really never had a desire to do a tribute show to my dad.
Right.
Well, if you do, I think I can. Hang on for a second. I'm going to get Mitch Gershenfeld from the McCallum over here. You stay right here. So he calls this guy up, the guy that runs the theater, and he comes over. He's a really nice guy. He says, so here's the deal. I think we can book you doing this show. Are you familiar with an album? Because I asked them, I said, well, guys, let's play devil's advocate and say I was going to do a tribute show to my dad. Okay. What songs am I going to do? Because he did the same songs everybody else did. You know, I mean, I'm not going to do an hour and a half of the Christmas song. So what am I going to do? So... you know, he sang, Nightingale sang it, but so did other people. And Lulu's back in town, so did other people. And he said, well, there's an album called Reunion, and the arrangements are all for Dectet. And Marty Page did the arrangements. And as you know, Marty Page was your dad's favorite arranger. Right. And for your listeners who do or don't know who he is, he's David Page from Toto's father. Right. He's a brilliant arranger. And he said, you should listen to that album. There's some great arrangements. If you did some of the arrangements on that and you could mix in some other stuff. And I finally slowed down and I started listening to my inner voices and, you know, Steve, shut up. This is probably a pretty good idea. And I told him, I said, you know what? I could do this. I could put together a really good show for you. And I've got an idea now how I would do this, because I'm not going to try and sing like that. I've got no reason to. It'd be me doing a tribute to him. So we ended up doing about a 32 city tour across the United States, doing Torme Sings Torme. And this company, AIX, saw it and they said, hey, we'd love you to come in and do this DVD of it. And that's how it came about. And it ended up being a really enjoyable show and a really challenging show, because the arrangements they're tough. You know, I heard their arrangement of Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. And the scat passages are pretty tough. Precise. Yeah, I agree. But I said, yeah, I can do this. I could learn, take me a few days, but I can learn this. And I'm really glad it gave me something to be challenged with. And hopefully Dad would have liked the show. I mean, he wasn't alive to see it, but hopefully he would have liked it. Well, your dad wrote over 250 songs in his career. Is what I read. That's what I've read. Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things about your dad were very interesting. He was a fast draw with gun. Is that true? Well, he was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't Sammy Davis Jr., who was really good, but he did learn how. I mean, it's interesting for someone who I never lived with. You know, there's no escaping it. We had certain interests that are undeniable, and I didn't get them from him because I didn't live with him. but he liked six shooters. I mean, he was
Yeah,
fascinated with
pretty
the
cool.
Old West, and he had a pretty good collection of them.
Yep.
Single action Colt revolvers. He loved cars, race cars, especially British racing cars. Me too. He loved model trains.
Yep.
Me too. He loved model airplanes. Me too. So, you know, there's no escaping it. You know, you can say, well, I'm not Mel Torme. I'm me, and I've got my own. About the only thing that we didn't have in common was my love of baseball, and he didn't dislike baseball, but I saw him with a couple of Colt 45s, and he could draw and do that stuff pretty well. As a matter of fact, just about everything he tried, he was good at. That's unusual.
He was an excellent writer. He wrote the biography of Buddy Rich and a bunch of other books. You know, I mean, a lot of people don't know this about your dad. You know, they just think of him as the Christmas song and that kind of thing. You know,
well, and the younger people today, most of them go, Mel Torme, the guy from Night Court. Yeah, the guy from Night Court.
Night Court.
A lot of them don't know he sang. You know,
and
the
Seinfeld.
The Seinfeld episode. Yeah, that guy, Mel Torme. You know, he didn't go past high school, but he was, to his credit, a voracious reader, and he had a very extensive vocabulary. Which he liked to show off in his books, which he's entitled to do. And he was a good writer. I read the books, you know, Traps the Wonder Boy about Buddy Rich, and Buddy told him, because Mel went to him and said, like, anything you any advice about the book? He said, man, just warts and all, put it all in there. You're gonna write it, put it all in there.
Yeah.
You know the famous Buddy line when he was going in for heart surgery?
What was that?
It's a pretty old story, but when Buddy went in for heart surgery, they were getting ready to put him out.
Right.
And they said, Mr. Rich, is there anything you're allergic to?
Right.
And he just kind of looked at me and went, country western music.
That's funny.
You can't make it up. You know, it's got to be true.
I love Buddy Rich, man. I just talked to Billy Cobham. He's a friend of mine a couple of days ago.
Great drummer.
To me, he's the best in the world right now, living drummer. But I always said Buddy Rich was the best all time. And of course, Gene Krupa, who your dad, didn't he have a drum set owned by Gene?
Yeah, Gene Krupa had a drum set that a Slingerland set that he bequeathed to Dad.
Right.
I think the best drummers at that time were, you named them, Mel Torme, who was a really good drummer. Buddy, obviously, I think was the best. Gene Krupa and Louis Bellson.
Yep.
Those were the guys. I'm going to match your Billy Cobham with Steve Gadd, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
But you're right, Dad, he did everything well. And I talk about this when I do the Torme Sings Torme show. I talk about, I said, you know, he really was a Renaissance guy, because
he was.
If you go into show business, and if you're an actor, for instance, and you even get a call back, you're ahead of 90% of the people that go into the acting business.
Sure.
Because you can go on auditions your whole life and never even get called back once, where they want to see you again.
Right.
You just keep going out and giving it a shot. But to be successful as a writer, I mean, he wrote good books. To be that good a drummer, that good an arranger, good actor, good piano player, an arranger, obviously a wonderful singer.
Yep.
And that's saying something. That's wearing a lot of hats. And outside of maybe Sammy Davis Jr., I can't think of too many people that wore that many hats in the business and was proficient, was good at them.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
You know, musicians are so connected to Hollywood as well. It's amazing how many guys I interview and they say, yeah, well, my, cousin is this and my family is this. Like, Billy Sherwood of Yes. His godfather was Milton Berle. And of course,
well, that's Milton was in our house every weekend. I mean, Milton was, I got another great story for you.
Good.
All right. I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. It's amazing how you guys are all connected somehow. You grew up and you hung around with Desi Arnaz Jr., Dean Martin Jr., Carrie Fisher, Liza Minnelli. It's
well, this was our neighborhood. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, and I'm not my words, his. So we're over at Lucy's.
Right.
I'm with Desi, and they used to show movies there.
Yep.
So they're showing a movie and Milton's sitting behind me. And the movie was a movie with Clint Eastwood and Telly Savalas called Where Eagles Dare.
Yeah.
And it was about the Nazi stronghold up
I
in the
remember that.
Alps.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where they're storming up these stairs, and Clint Eastwood's in front with a, with a Tommy gun, and
Yep.
and Telly Savalas and whoever else was in the movie. And as they're going up the stairs, and it's quiet, Milton leans over and in my ear he goes, Stevie, go, shh, what? And Lucy turns, I go, Milton, quiet. And we're kind of quiet for a second. He goes, Stevie. I said, what? He goes, you know about Clint Eastwood, right? I go, what? He goes, Big Fagula.
Oh no.
And he did it just to make me laugh.
That's
just so I would get in trouble. And
That's
Lucy turns around, she goes, Stevie, you and Desi out. And she out.
That's hilarious. Milton was so funny, man.
Oh man, really. And in the living room, forget it. I mean, the best humor was in our living room.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if my parents weren't at one of their houses,
Right.
The dinner parties at our house were Milton and Lucy and Jack Carter and Buddy Hackett.
Wow.
Buddy Hackett, Jan Murray, and Phil Silvers.
Wow.
So that was who was in the living room. And
That's
I was
crazy.
a little boy and I had to go to bed. I couldn't stay up with them. So I'm in my bedroom and I'm listening at the door.
Mm-hmm.
It's 9:00. And as the Chevis is getting poured more, the stories are getting dirtier. And my mom, who was very elegant and a really beautiful woman, is laughing the hardest.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically nights when you could hear coming through the door, it's getting louder and louder, and you hear Buddy Hackett saying, so anyway, there's this donkey and he's humping a rabbi. And my mother is laughing the hardest.
I saw Buddy in Atlantic City, and one of the funniest jokes, I still remember it word for word. It was great. He was so funny, that guy.
Share the joke.
Well, it's a little dirty, but I can
It's your
say
show. It's your show.
It's my
It's your
show.
show.
Right? No, well, he was in a he was talking about a guy that was on a deserted island. Do you know that one?
Nope, not.
No,
I
he was
probably
on a
don't.
deserted island, and he was there for years, all by himself. And the only thing he could do was masturbate. I mean, that's it, So I used to masturbate every day, but it got less and less and less, and he was not interested anymore, and he had nothing to do. But one day he saw a ship real far away. It was a cruise ship, so he started a fire. He's waving at them, and he's thinking about, wow, they're going to come save me after all these years, He says, I'll be invited to the captain's table. They'll put me in whites, after all these years. I'll get to dance with a woman after all these years. We'll get close. I'll smell her perfume. Oh, it'll be so nice to touching a woman, that soft skin again. And it'll be so great. I'll grab her ass right there. I'll squeeze it. I'll grab that beautiful ass, and there's no fucking ship. That's Buddy.
That is a Buddy Hackett joke.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Buddy Hackett joke.
He's great. He's great.
Well, my stepfather Hal was a great audience.
I saw many things. I saw him. He was on I Love Lucy.
A number of times, yes.
It was on the Monkees.
Oh, you've seen that?
I saw that. He was
on
the
Monkees. He played Ronstadt, the crooked dance teacher.
Yeah.
Yes. On Lucy, he played Doctor something or other, and he had to look at Lucy's Zorch. This is the Zorch we must look at. Well, he was a funny guy, but to his credit, he loved surrounding himself with these people because they made him laugh. I mean, they all were outdoing each other.
Yep.
And you get a living room with Shecky Green and Jack Carter and Jan Murray. It's just nothing but shtick constantly. So I'm so fortunate to have grown up like that, to meet those people. And they like screwing. Milton loved screwing with me. He loved making me laugh and making me, get in trouble constantly. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I've had Lucy Arnaz on the show. We're both, she's, of course, Cuban and half Cuban. So am I. So we got along very well together, talking about the Cuban food and growing up in a Cuban household, with Desi, and she was like family. She really was. She was like one of my cousins. And I had Keith Thibodeau on the show too, Little Ricky.
Right.
Yeah, he's doing well, by the way. He's got a ballet. He's runs a ballet school in Mississippi.
Good for him.
Making lots of money, and he's a devout Christian. He plays drums, of course. He's in a band. Yeah, he's
Probably
doing very, very well.
Christian rock would be my
Christian,
guess.
yeah, kind of Christian rock, right? Like
Right,
kind of
right.
like that band Petra, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, all right. Two things to add to that. Since
right.
you mentioned Christian rock, I sent an email off today. I like my version of "I Remember Christmas Time," and
I do too.
I think
I do too.
I think it's sung well, and I like the song. And from an ego standpoint, I would love to have the hit with that, and it becomes perennial, and we
Yeah,
hear it every year. But
that'd be cool.
people have asked me who do you hear singing it, and I would love to have, since you mentioned Christian rock,
Right.
I just sent it off to Vince Gill's manager.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Vince Gill sings like a friggin' angel. He's got a gorgeous voice, and he would bring in a country audience that song is right down the middle for them. It's very, Norman Rockwellian. It's very family oriented.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. See if he gets back to me. So here's my other story for you.
Okay.
Since you mentioned Lucy, one summer, Desi Jr. and I were invited to go down to Del Mar because that's where Desi Sr. had a home.
Right.
And he was with his second wife after Lucy. Her name was Edie, really nice lady. So Desi and I are down there for the summer, for a couple of weeks. And we're like, I don't know, 17 years old. And Desi had this beautiful, faded lemon yellow Ferrari, 17. And we drive down there, and we're kind of spending the time playing volleyball with the jockeys down there because of Del Mar racetrack.
Right, right.
So we're having a great time on the beach. We go to the racetrack, and one day, Desi Sr. invites us to go to Del Mar racetrack. And I think it was a Sunday. And he was to be the grand marshal in some parade down there. So we get down there, and he's in this, I don't know, like a Lincoln Continental convertible, and he's the grand marshal. And I can tell he's already been tippling a little bit. It's not a big secret that he liked the sauce a little. So we get to the racetrack, and this is a good story. We get to the racetrack, and he decides he's going to start betting on the horses. And we couldn't. We were too young to. But we're watching this, and he's going to run a parlay, like a $500 parlay. And he's betting the horses, and he's doing pretty well. And he's winning. We're into like the fourth or fifth race, and I can see that he's going to the window, and it's working out. But he's also, accompanying this with, a little rum here and there.
Right, right.
And he's going pretty good. And we get to the feature race, the eighth race. And I remember like yesterday, he bet on a horse called Pretense that went off at like 2-1, being written by a jockey named Johnny Hartack. And the race goes off. The horse runs like ninth. He loses all of his money. He had this whole, he run it up to about $2,500. Bye-bye. Johnny Hartack ran the ninth. They're done. So we get in the car afterwards. We get in the limousine afterwards. And it's kind of raining. And we're trying to get out of the racetrack. And I can see a policeman, motioning to us. We can get out through here. He's going to move a barricade for us. And I'm in the back seat with Desi, and we're kind of going towards the entrance. And I point over. I said, "Oh, I think he's trying to signal to us that we can use that exit there." And Desi Sr. turns around like lightning, turns on the listeners. "You shut up, you faggot." I was like, holy crap. And little Desi looks at me like, don't say anything. I'm like, I'm not saying anything. I'm sitting. I was kind of like shocked. And I'm sitting back there, and I said, okay, he's probably already. So we get back to the house, and we go into Desi's bedroom. And within 30 seconds, Desi Sr. comes in with tears in his eyes. And puts his, "I'm so sorry, Stevie. I love you so much. I apologize." I said, "It's okay. I get it. Lost some money racing." Said, no, anything I can do for you. So it was just interesting, to be around stuff like that. And it was very sweet of him. He just, he lost some money. "You shut up."
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
oh my God. I would have loved to meet Desi Sr., man.
Oh man,
my family was all like Desi Sr., my mom's side, every one of them, my grandmother, she got thrown out because of Castro with just the clothes on her back in 1959, I think it was.
Wow.
And she was a gynecologist in Cuba. She had money. She had a beach house. She had an office downtown. It's amazing,
Wow.
Because of Fidel, they had to leave,
he could have been
a
good guy.
He could have been a good guy.
He loves baseball, and he likes to smoke a cigar.
Exactly right.
A schmuck.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's too bad. Yeah. Well, there are some stories I can tell you and some I can't, but
You got to write a book. You got to write a book.
well, I've been asked that twice. I've been doing interviews for the song for the last week, and I've been asked
Right.
that twice. I said, as long as my beautiful wife and daughters are alive, I don't think I can write that book yet.
Well, yeah, I know. You got to be honest, right? You
Well,
can't.
well, you should at least have stuff in it that's real. And I've got some funny stuff, but it's too honest, and
Yeah,
it's
I know what you mean.
yeah.
I've written a couple of books, and yeah, on this one, this is the story about me growing up in the family business. Okay, in DC, and
Oh, how cool!
that's me in the front cover, by the way. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Standing at attention. Yes.
but I kind of didn't tell the whole truth because the kids,
Well, yeah, I don't need. I got two teenage girls, and they know I'm a nut anyway. But they don't need to go. I'm sorry. What you did? What
You did
with
what?
who, when? What?
Who?
What? We just saw her on television last week. No, you didn't. I didn't write that. No.
Exactly.
I can't.
Your family's very interesting because they all, I mean, you got your sister, Melissa Tormé March, right? She's an actress.
Melissa, well, Melissa did one film. She
Okay.
did a film a long time ago called The Carrie Treatment.
I remember
with
that.
James Coburn.
Yeah.
He played a doctor, and she had one scene in it where she dies. I guess she's someone that he treated, and she has a scene where she slumps against the wheel of a car. It's pretty funny just seeing her face before she goes, just like, and out she went. So that was her part. But my sister Daisy is a good voiceover actress, very good,
Right.
a lovely voice. And she and my brother James, who's also a singer,
Right.
they spent a lot of time in England because their mom, Mel's third wife, was English. She was an English actress named Jeanette Scott.
Right.
So they both, they can talk like this when they have to, and there's like no consonants. It's like right. I said, well, where's the T? No, there's no T in right. It's just right. Right. Oh, I see. So they're both very talented. James is a good singer and got great sense of rhythm. And my brother Tracy, and these are all on the Tormé side.
Yeah.
Is a writer and wrote for SCTV.
Amazing.
Wrote for SNL. Wrote for. He was a big Star Trek fan, a big Gene Roddenberry fan. So he started a series that you're probably aware of, a science fiction series called Sliders.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And there was a movie called Fire from the Sky, which is about Travis Walton, the guy who said he was abducted.
Right. Tracy
wrote that. So, talented people. And then the other side, the March side, they're just nutcases. Everybody's just kind of shocking. Shocking.
And of course, your mom, Candy. Toxton, right? Toxton.
Candy Toxton.
Yeah.
Who became Candy Tormé, who became Candy March. She was an actress for a short time. She was signed to Harry Cohn at Columbia Pictures.
Right.
And she was engaged to Tommy Dorsey. And I think he broke off the engagement. And Sinatra was chasing her. And she, Nancy Sinatra, I kid. And
we're getting phone calls here.
Yeah, actually, yes. John Sinatra, a dentist in Santa Monica. John Sinatra, nothing to do with the business. Now, Frank was the night my mom and dad got married. Frank Sinatra came over to the house and he was pretty drunk and he was, "Where's Candy?" And Dad said, "Frank, I think it's time to leave." So,
wow.
And she dated DiMaggio for a while. So the DiMaggio. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, when she became a housewife and a mom, she got out of the business. And that was that. Probably could have been a good actress. Who knows?
Yeah. I claim the fame. I spent a couple hours with Ted Williams.
I want to hear.
I owned a store in DC at the JW Marriott Hotel, right in the lobby. And a lot of celebrities used to walk in. They were clients of mine. Ted Williams walks in. First of all, he wanted me to teach him about his camera. He had a Minolta camera, and he's a big gadget freak. He loves all kinds of electronics and things like that. And he's with his developer, Sam Simposi or something like that, from Boston. I think he had an interest in the Red Sox as well. And he came in and he saw this small shortwave radio that we were selling. And he bought a couple of those. He bought some other accessories and whatever. But what a great guy! You either love Ted Williams or you don't, because
Yeah,
he's got a
that
mouth,
sounds about right.
got
That
a
sounds
mouth.
about right.
You know, everything is goddamn this and goddamn
Oh
that.
yeah, oh yeah. Hang on for 1 second. I want to put some
Sure.
light on, which I should have done
Sure.
a second ago. Hang on. It's a little bit better.
But the
Yeah, I would imagine that he was
he's
pretty
like
much
a John Wayne. You know?
he was a hard ass Marine kind of guy.
Yeah.
Goddamn it, baseball players, goddamn. Yeah, they're soft.
But the ironic thing, my wife took a picture of him, and it was a bad picture. And he says, "God damn it, little lady, it got my goddamn head off." And you know the story there, right? When he got frozen.
Oh, right.
He was frozen by his family, and they did cut his head off. And
jeez Louise, they did, didn't they?
He just kept his head frozen, you know.
They
but
kept
he
it
said
in a cryonic stage.
Cryonics, yeah.
Oh man,
that was kind of strange.
When there, I lost my head.
Yeah, I lost my head. He was a really cool guy, you know. And of course, you know, being from Washington, he was a manager of the Senators for a long time. And
wow.
Really
I'm trying to think of ball. You know, I met my stepfather took us to dinner at Toots Shores in New York.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm looking at my dad, and I can sense someone's behind me. And my dad says, "Hey, Mick, say hello to my son, Steven."
Oh my gosh.
Well, how nice to meet you, Steve. Hey, good to see you, Hal. And says, "So, Steve, you like ball?" I said, I said, "Nice to meet you." He goes, "Well, you come on out to Yankee Stadium, be my guest." So it never happened, but you know, we all loved Mickey. You know, everybody loved Mickey.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Billy Martin loved him too much, and that didn't help things.
And Whitey Ford.
Yeah. But I think Billy really was the troublemaker, and I think who knows what would have happened. You know, Mickey might have. You know, he was in New York. He might have become an alcoholic anyway. We'll never know.
Yeah.
But going under Billy's wing probably didn't help a lot. Who knows?
I grew up in these apartments in Maryland, and a lot of the people that lived there were Washington senators. So of course Halloween was great when you knock on the door, and you know the wife would answer, "Where's your husband? Is he around?" You know, that kind of thing. But upstairs, my best friend's dad was an announcer for the Senators, so I used to bring in ball players from time to time, and he brought in Pete Rickard one day.
Pitch for the Sox.
Yep, pitch for the Dodgers, the Orioles. I was playing with a toy, and the toy had a little rocket on it, and it flew over his head. I was so embarrassed, and I had him sign my ball, and I had a lot of fake autographs from the Orioles. And he was on the Senators at the time. He says, "It's got a bunch of Oriole autographs on here. Why do you want me to sign this?" You know, like a month later, he got traded to the Orioles.
Wow.
And he ended up in the World Series too. He pitched in the World Series.
Wow. Who were the guys on the Senators at that time?
Coleman, who pitched to me at fantasy camp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pedro Ramos. Remember him?
Camilo Pascual. He was a twin. Camilo Pascual. Yeah. Best curveball in the American League for a while.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Paul Casanova was the catcher. Frank Howard on the Senators.
Paul Casanova. Ouch. Ouch.
Remember him?
And this is about like 1 year before the fabulous Zoyo Versailles.
Yeah, Versailles. That's right. He also played with the Twins, I believe, right?
Yeah, well, I think he was a rookie with the Twins. Zoyo Versailles. Rookie of the year. Never heard from him again.
Ken McMullen, Eddie Brickman.
Wow.
Trying to think of all the guys. Mike Epstein started with he was with the Orioles, and he went with the Senators and the Oakland. Then he played with the. You know how I'm so good at this? Baseball cards.
Sure.
Right? I still remember all my baseball cards growing up.
And you can see them. You can see the cards in your head without question.
Exactly.
You know, I know that the Bob Gibson 59 is pink.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. So cool. I'm going to ask you this question that I ask all my
all your legends,
music artists. Yeah, all my legends. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform or collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Oh, gee. Well, to perform and collaborate with, probably McCartney.
A lot of people say McCartney. It's funny.
Well, my voice would blend well with him. I've sung to so many Beatles songs and albums, and we do some of them with a group I work with here. And he's a great writer.
Mhm.
Either him or Stevie Wonder. It has to be one of those two for me. You know, I don't go far back enough for Richard Rodgers and Irving Berlin and, you know, and
Beethoven,
Johnny Mercer. They're all great writers,
yeah.
but to collaborate with and to sing with male singers, it'd be Stevie or Paul McCartney. And I was asked, you know, who would you like to do a duet with?
Right.
Female. And the person I would like to sing with is Katie Lang.
Katie Lang. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I think she's a great singer, and she doesn't oversing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's just got this pure, just straight out beautiful voice, and not a lot of pastry on it. She reminds me a little bit of a lady who's still with us, fortunately, who can't sing anymore, and that would be Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phenomenal voice, harmonized beautifully, didn't oversing, didn't sing 12 notes where two would do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a valuable lesson I learned in the last 10 years. Less is more. It was a great lesson.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that's my answer. That's what I think.
That's your answer. I get some great answers, man. Petula Clark, of all people, told me Pink Floyd. Can you believe that?
She said that. She said Pink Floyd.
She wanted to sing with Pink Floyd.
Wow. All right. So I have a quick story I got to tell you, but it can't be on the show.
Okay. Why not?
It can't because no.
Okay. All right. After the show, you'll tell me, I guess.
Yes. I got two quick stories. I've got to do an interview at 2:15 my time. It's 2 now. So I do have 15 minutes in between.
Okay. All right.
So if we cut this off and
we'll wrap this up. Steve, you got anything else for me? Anything else you want to promote?
Well, thank you. I mean, if people want to download the song so I can buy Christmas gifts for my teenagers, they can go to Spotify or Apple iTunes or YouTube. I've got concerts coming up next year too. I'm going to be doing Tormé Sings Tormé for the first time in about 10 years. We're going to do that out here in Wisconsin with a great bunch of musicians. And I'm trying to get my symphony show off the ground again too. I want to do that. I mean, COVID didn't help anybody. It just shut things down. So I just want people to, if they want to find out what I'm doing, go to stevemarchtorme.com or follow me on Facebook and my nonsense. I put a sports column in it today. If you want to go check it out, you will probably agree with most of it. If you could go to Facebook, friend me and go see today's column.
Cool.
So that's about it. I appreciate your having me on and taking this much time to listen to my stuff. So all good.
You're an interesting guy, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We got a lot in common too.
Yeah, I'm afraid we do. We have to admit that, both of us.
Make sure you come to Florida when you tour again, okay?
Oh, definitely. I've played many places in Florida.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
Go out for
we go have a couple of beers and talk sports. Absolutely.
Exactly. Oh, we could talk for hours about sports. Jeez.
Well, I'll be back in Florida. I've played everywhere down there. I'll be back without question.
Okay, I want to say special thanks to John Lappin, my buddy John Lappin of Lappin Enterprises, for arranging this interview with Steve March-Tormé.
Yes, he did.
And like Steve says, you can go on his website. Also buy Tormé Sings Tormé. That's available on Amazon.com. It's got it's a beautiful package.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Oh, there's some really good interviews with my dad in there. Some really cool stuff with him.
Cool. And you sing with your dad on that too, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do.
You do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, sir. And as soon as you go off the air, tell me when we're off the air and I will share something with you.
I appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.